Yes. So today, right now, we will discuss about second unit of Block 1 of MSW 017 program. And it is about the linkages or the linkage of advocacy with other methods of social work, right? So let us move ahead and understand the other aspect of advocacy, right? So in this unit, we will understand what are the linkages of advocacy with various other methods of social work, because there are other methods of social work which are important. For example, social casework and advocacy, how they are related, group work and advocacy, community organization, social welfare administration, social action and advocacy, social work research and advocacy, how networking and advocacy both are interrelated, then awareness campaigns and advocacy, PIL and advocacy, resource mobilization and advocacy, strength-based practice and advocacy. So all these methods of social work, how they are related with advocacy. What is the linkage between these various methods of social work? We will study, we will understand from this unit 2, right? So let us move ahead and understand this. See, in introduction, it has been very clearly mentioned that advocacy can be described as the process of identifying with representing a person's views and concerns in order to ensure the enhanced rights, entitlements are restored. Restored of whom? For whom? So advocacy basically describes the process of identifying and representing a person's views and concern who is unable to do that, right? And this was based on the research of Henderson and Oshin in 2001. Now, if we see further on, advocacy involves a person's either vulnerable individual or group or their agreed representative. So basically, this paragraph talks about that for whom we go for advocacy. We do advocacy for individuals, for groups, for communities, for vulnerable section of the society, right? Who do not have that much confidence, who do not have that much awareness to talk about their rights, their basic rights, their fundamental rights, their natural rights, their constitutional rights, and all that. Further, advocacy, if we see, is very exclusive and mutual representation of clients or cause in forum attempting to systematically influence decision making in an unjust or unresponsive system. This was based on the research of Schneider and Lester in 2001. So basically, it is an it is a process which brings justice, social justice, and equality in the society, right? The method is very handy for social workers to achieve the goal of social justice and welfare in the changing global scenario. This is the most important aspect, that we talk about social justice and social welfare, right? And this social justice is for the vulnerable sections who do not have that much privilege, or they are not in a position to seek justice and It also talks about they even do not meet their basic needs. So advocacy basically works for them, right? So let us understand and how social casework and advocacy are related. So casework or case advocacy is basically the casework that you have studied as one of the method of social work. So case advocacy is basically acting on behalf of client. The client may be an individual person or a family or a group or a community which you can say it. And it is done for what? It is done, case advocacy is basically practiced in order to access the needed resources, services, or to influence the policy change or to bring change in the policy or the programs. So consent of the client for whom we are going to have their views represented in front of various bodies, judiciary, bureaucracy, political system. So their consent, the consent of the client is very, very, very important. Further, it says the goal should be empowerment of the client, make them aware of the rights, the you know, they should feel valued. They should know what their entitlements are, right? So this is very, very important. Now, advocacy falls along continuum of involvement and commitment. It is not a one-day process. This is not a one-day activity. It is always knowledge-based. The more knowledge you have, the more you will be able to do advocacy, right? So the most important aspect is to have a wider understanding of the government policies, regulations, administrative and political structure. At the same time, the bureaucratic structure, the political system and everything. And right now, if we move on, agencies appeal procedure. How do a person who do not have that much knowledge or awareness, how he or she presents the case in front of you and you discusses, you appeals in front of the legislature, judiciary, the political party, the bureaucracy, the police, and all that. You make an appeal to solve their problems. That is important. Now, what are the available legal remedies for the problems that are faced by all these, all your clients? So, understanding of formal and informal power structure is again very important. External forces that organization responds to, and at the last, the result or the consequences for the client and others if we escalate the issue. And this was based on the research of this person, right? So, understanding of all these are very, very important. Now, there is a comment of Sushil Kumarji. Sir, if I did MSW from Ignou, it would be considered as a regular base. Sir, it is always distance base. Sushil Kumarji, if you do Ignou, MSW from Ignou, it will be distance based because you do not go on regular basis for the classes. There are classes which are introductory classes, you know. So it is not very, very, very well regular classes. It will not be regular, it will be distance. For regular, you need to go to college or university where there is a regular full-time 2-year program. So Sushil Kumarji, this will not be on regular basis, but it will be valued all across the world. The degree given by Ignou is valued, it is accepted, it is recognized all across world. I'm not talking about India, right? Because this is a central university having NAC A++ accreditation. So this is one of the finest, one of the best universities in India, which is providing, which is giving distance education to their learners of all age group. Fine. Now let us move ahead. What is the purpose of advocacy? The purpose of advocacy work with the clients are mentioned here. The number one is prevent human rights violations and promotes people's right and help maintain control over their lives. You go to various areas, various villages of our country, you will find there are several very minor pity cases where people do not get their basic human rights. The persons who are powerful, the influencer person, they just become sometime inhumane in terms of various socio-economic activities. So the advocacy work with the clients are sometimes to get them the basic entitlements, basic human rights, and realize the constitutional safeguards and fundamental rights. This is very beautifully and very well written study material, thanks to the professor who has written this thing. Now, facilitate an equitable allocation and funding of resources for welfare and provision of social services along with social development. Equitable resources, allocation, funding. This is again very important. If you go to Gram Panchayat, Janpad Panchayat, District Jilla Panchayat, you will find there are various issues, socio-economic issues in villages which needs proper funding. Although there is a finance commission at the state level, at the national level, but you will find in most rural areas there are several socio-economic, political, legal issues. So, as a social worker, as a professionally trained social worker, when we go for advocacy, we must ensure, we must try to get equity in all kind of aspects of socioeconomic life, of enhancing the quality of the life. Now, protect individuals and groups facing harassment and ill treatment by uh, affecting structural changes in social and political system and institutions. See, this is again very important. Ill treatment, harassment, protecting the rights of individuals and groups in, in whether it requires changing the social system or the political system or the institutional level is again a kind of advocacy work, because unless we raise the voice, how can we expect that somebody will do it by their own, right? So next, if we see promote social inclusion and raise awareness of barriers faced by socially excluded groups and communities. Sir, I see information, education and communication, social inclusion. Even you go to rural areas, you will find there are several areas in Uttar Pradesh or in Bihar or in Jharkhand or Rajasthan or several states. This is the issue, social inclusion. People are sometimes excluded from the societies, from the groups, from the communities on the basis of several factors, right? So we have to, as a social worker, we need to become voice of their clients, right? Because advocacy is all about talking about those who do not do, or they who are not capable of doing themselves, not capable of raising their voice, right? So support and empower people and group to speak for themselves on behalf of other members and groups in their neighborhood who are unable to see. This is the point which I discussed, right? Now, if we move further on, help people to explore range of options available to fight against operation and clarifying a particular course of action. This is again a kind of advocacy which is very important, that we make our clients aware of the various alternative options that are available to them, along with their pros and cons, and deciding a particular action for on behalf of our client, right? Then facilitate the process of establishing new policies. But the question arises, why new policies? Because the existing policies sometimes do not cater the needs, the interest of various sections of society. And that is why it is written to tackle social injustice and protect vulnerable groups and populations, which also include making changes in existing policies and legislations to rectify flaws and plug loopholes. This is again very important aspect. Bringing social justice, protecting the interest of the vulnerable groups. Advocacy for bringing policies, designing programs which are more inclusive, more justice to the people who do not get their basic fundamental rights, right? So this is all about that. Now, if we move further on, social group work and advocacy, that that is again very important aspect, that how social group work is related with that of advocacy, right? So if we move on, social group work is a method in which social work that attempts to address and solve the problems faced by individual clients through groups, right? Here, the important aspect is that there are several sections of society. Several people have several problems, right? So the underlying assumption in group work is that the group provides a forum to each individual member. And forum for what? Forum to interact, forum to share, forum to understand oneself in relation to others more closely, understand and assess the personal strengths and weaknesses, at the same time developing belief in the strength in mutual help, develop close bonding, because in next upcoming points we will discuss how bonding is very important aspect, and then plan and act together for achieving shared goals. So group work and advocacy, if we see, is very important. Now the social worker is responsible to facilitate this process of group formation and making the group to act to achieve the shared goals. Now what are the different type of goals? Number one, if you see, guide their interaction in the program activities and help the group as a whole experience growth opportunity as per their needs. So in this process of social group work, a social worker tries to help each individual of the group to enhance their social functioning through purposeful group experience and cope more effectively with their problems, right? So this is the thing. Now, these are the basic things which are written. I will directly move to the important points which you should consider for your exams. So, as a part of social group work, one type of group that social workers are expected to form and work with are advocacy groups. Now, what are advocacy groups? So advocacy groups in context of social work, if we see, are such groups that are formed of individuals who might have been target of human rights violations or discriminations or stigma and exclusion. So somebody who has faced human rights violation or some form of discrimination or some kind of a stigma facing or has faced some time, we form a group of them and we make them empower to raise their voice, to talk about their basic fundamental rights or their entitlements or their interest before the state government, the state agencies, the bureaucratic system, the social institutions, the social groups, or families, which is mentioned over here, right? So, advocacy with such groups focuses on building awareness of rights and entitlements, legal resources available, and the process involved in seeking justice. This is important. Representing before appropriate authorities seeking redressal of their grievances. See, this is very, very important. Representing before appropriate authorities and redressal of their problems, their issues is the main focus, is the main objective that we should get that rights restored. So the purpose of advocacy work through group work is to orient the group to recognize injustices, violations of human rights, and barriers to seeking justice. So engagement of group is very, very, very important, right? And this requires a skill. Skill of what kind? This is the important line of this paragraph. This requires skill of coalition building, you know, building the people, making them a group, supporting them, positioning them, lobbying them, testifying. So all these are important skills when we go for group work and we go for advocacy, right? So this is again important. Now, if we move further on, client advocacy groups are formed of those members who have a common need or problem. This is one aspect, that the members who have a common problem, common issues, common challenges, we form a group of them. While non-client advocacy groups comprises of such individuals who have an interest on a particular issue or concern and come together with the aim to promote social justice and human rights of vulnerable sections of the society. So this is another group. So there may be two kinds of groups. Number one, that is the group whose members are having common problems, who are suffering or has sometimes experienced the problem, the issues of discrimination, injustice. Whereas there is another kind of group which are non-client advocacy groups. So this non-client advocacy groups comprises of the individuals who are interested on a particular social concern, and they come together because sometimes they may get affected. The society at large may get affected because of the injustice, because of the various problems in the society. So to promote social justice and human rights of vulnerable of groups or communities or various sections of society, there is this non-client advocacy group, right? So this is again a basic thing about that. Now, the role of professional social worker in such case would be playing a system linkage role. Now, what is system linkage role? System linkage role talks about clients, advocacy groups, and organizations that also exist in work of their membership. So they try to bridge the gap between the system, the uncooperative system, the governance, the government, the bureaucracy to raise their voice, right? For example, this is examples of the work of non-client advocacy groups are often found in form of environmental advocacy groups that have a critical role, right, to play in shaping public perceptions in different potential approaches to solving environmental problems. So this is the group work and advocacy. Now, if we move to community organization and advocacy, the theory and principles laid emphasis on need of community as a whole and in its individual members to be united in a spirit, possess cooperative and collaborative attitude, identification with community, take interest and participate in affairs of community, share common values and goals, develop a sense of responsibility for condition and status of community. So all these are various aspects, important perspectives of community as defined by Murray G. Ross in 1955. And it further discusses that the focus of community organization as a method proposed by Ross was more on organizing the members of community, planning for change, acting together to solve common problems faced by community as a whole and achieve their shared goals. So this was very important aspect. Now, in addition, further on, Rinku Sen in 2003 argues that the community organization should now move into practices that support emergence of new social movement with potential to win large-scale progressive changes. See, Ross in 1955, what they discussed that collective goals, common shared values for development of community is important. But Rinku Sen in 2003 argues, see, we have to move further on to expand this concept where the emergence of new social movement, the changing societal norms, and progressive change in the society that is to be taken into care of. So, this is where the essence of advocacy lies in the context of working with the communities, right? See, this line, this is very important. It says the earliest view of community organization as a primary method in social work focused on more as how the community could solve its common problems within community itself. And how will do that? How will they do it? They do it by involving the members of the community in cooperative and collaborative work. So if a community has a particular problem, they should solve it by themselves in a collective way. Whereas it says the advocacy work with communities and their common needs, issues and problems, challenges faced, the problem changes the focus and target of social work intervention from within the community to outside the community. This is important. Outside the community, right? Further, the center of focus needs to shift now from within the community to without. This is important. Since modern societies have empowered the state in governance of citizens, the hold of the state has become more pronounced. And, and there comes the issues of governance, ineffective implementation of administration of policies, legislations, programs, various kinds of services as given by the government has adversely affecting the common man. It is therefore imperative that the focus of the community work should be the integration of advocacy work during social work intervention process. And it is done for what? So that the factors that are external to community and influence the social development of the community could be managed effectively and redressed. This line is very important. Please understand this. Now, advocacy related work is to development of any community, whether it is of rural, tribal, urban, and it involves representing before the concerned authorities regarding the unmet needs of the community, the non-implementation of the development programs and flaws, etc. So this is the line which discusses that what is to be done, right? Now, corrupt practices that affect the quality of the service provided or quality of the infrastructure created, like ICDS, Integrated Child Development Services, and midday meals in the schools of in India, the health services provided by the hospitals of the primary health center, educational services, social infrastructures, roads, water supply, electricity could be dealt more effectively if the community is organized by the professional social worker to fight against corrupt or insensitive government machinery. See, this paragraph, these lines basically shows or guides or directs you how, where, what can be done through community engagement, through community mobilization, right? And this is how advocacy work helps community to claim for its due share of entitlements and fulfillment of community needs, especially in rural India, right? So this is important. And RTI in this respect, in this aspect, is a boon, is one of the important tools which helps you, right? Now let us move ahead and understand social welfare administration and advocacy. So initially they have defined this thing, that what is social welfare. And social welfare, if you see, is basically this one. It basically refers to conceiving, planning, developing, mobilizing, organizing, coordinating, and delivering of human services. See, delivery of human services. So all activities comes under social work administration. But further on, it says it is different from public administration. And how it different? Because the other forms of delivery of social services, in the sense that while conceiving or delivering these services to the people who need them, it uses basic values and principles of social work profession. Social work profession is based on some values and principles. And what are those? The specific principles of social work are group work, community organization, social action, ethical code of professional work. All these are considered as important ways to practice the administration. So social work administration and public administration is completely different, because in social work administration we follow the basic values and principles of social work profession. Please mind this, please make a note of this, right? Now the delivery of the services, whether universal services or targeted services, are aimed at building capacities of the people. Now what are targeted services? For example, targeted public distribution system, TPDS, what we call it, distribution of food grains or essential elements for life. Food grains, ration shops in villages or in urban areas are targeted public distribution system. So delivery of all these services are always aimed building the capacities of the people, making them empowered, feeling them important section of the society. It also involves application of rational problem solving techniques and evidence based methodologies. See, we need to have some data, some facts, some figures, some information logically in conceiving, developing, coordinating, and delivering human services. So, this is very important. Now, if we move on, social planning is the process used to involve people at the grassroots level in identification of their needs, voicing their concern that affect them, and include these projects and programs so that they get executed, developed. So this is all about that, and that basically talks about planning at gram panchayat level and ensuring accountability and all that. So moving ahead, because considering your exams, we must go on very specific things which are important, right? So advocacy work as a social work method in relation to social work administration, therefore, is concerned with making potential services or users aware of their rights to basic and quality services, training them in making a proper assessment of services provided by the government machinery, building their ability to monitor in the implementation of various government programs, raising issues of quality that this road, this hospital, this primary health center, whatever is there, the social infrastructures, public infrastructures are of not good quality. If somewhere is there, there should be advocacy to raise voice against all these things. Or sometimes there is ineffective service delivery. Highlight a specific need of concerned vulnerable groups like Dalit, tribal, handicapped, homeless, slum population in urban areas, or concerns of the children, elderly, all these things. So these are some of the areas where social work practice is conducted through advocacy, right? Now moving ahead, social action and advocacy. So this initial focus of social work profession till 1930s and 40s was therapeutic paradigm. Margot Britton 2006 is of the view that the therapeutic paradigm was designed to address our personal problems, and the personal problems could be somewhere sometimes somehow related with that of relationships or mental health, just for example they have mentioned, but not social justice problems. And that was therapeutic aspect paradigm, and that was the era of 1930s and 40s. But if we move ahead in 1950s, it was the emergence of new paradigm in social work practice, and that was committed to establishing social justice through social action. And this resulted in evolution of all other traditional social work methods that emphasize this client's advocacy. And it says history is witness to a number of social movements, whether it is small or large scale, and it has initiated by the people and the groups who are directly impacted by issues and forces that are oppressive, discriminatory, exploitative, and so on and so on. However, not always do people who are faced with such problems and issues can fight for their rights and seek justice. Such category of clients are child laborers, bonded laborers, trafficked girls and women, sexually abused children, girls and women, prisoners and offenders facing trial and living in deplorable conditions, refugees, mental ill and mentally challenged, the poor, tribal, victims of involuntary displacement, and like, and so on and so on. So, these are various sections of society on whom behalf we need to do advocacy, right? And many of these problems are a result of structural inequality and disparity existing in a society, or the prevalence of exclusionary forces that persist in the society. So this is important, right? So social action as a method is more appropriate where the issues by the community are in relatively large scale than that faced by a single community. This line is very important. Please mark this. When the issue is of larger interest, larger public interest, we go for social action. And the development and establishment of social action as a pure form of social work method having clear domain has been quite fluid. It has dallied between outcome-based approach to problem resolution at the community level and unending or sustaining process focused method. So this is talking about the method through which the problem can be solved, right? So these are the things you please read, basic things. Now we should move ahead with social work research and advocacy. Now this social work research, as the name suggests, is the research based social work. And if we add on advocacy work, then that becomes data-based advocacy. I will tell you the crux, the summary of this entire thing, and that is basically that whenever we are going to work in field for our clients, whether it is individual, whether it is a group, or it is of various types, whether it is of social or political institutions or policies or programs. So we should always have a data. We should have proper findings from research so that we can raise the voice of our clients. So research on evidence-based advocacy, that is the main aspect of this social work research and advocacy, right? So that is what it says. Now, an understanding of social work practice can be systematically explored by reflections on experience of constant testing, challenging, and reinterpretation of assumptions in practice. For example, this says this thing. Please note this thing and then I will explain this thing. The data from Census of India, every 10 years after a decade in India, we have a census. Last census was carried out in 2011 and next census was about to take place in 2021, but it has not yet been done. So census, complete enumeration method, which we call in sampling, is the method in which we go to all residents or the respondents residing in our country. So census database, in which state, what category of people, how many numbers, whom of them having basic facilities and all that and all that. So census data always helps in case of advocacy. Again, the survey by NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization, or National Crime Record Bureau data, National Family Health Survey. All these surveys by government agencies or international NGOs or international organizations helps a social worker in raising the issues of the oppressed group, the marginalized groups, the vulnerable groups, communities, individuals in front of competent or concerned authorities, right? So when we go for advocacy, we must have quantitative and qualitative research to understand the impact of all these programs, policies which are designed for welfare of the people, whether they are executed and implemented very well or not. What are the issues? So research based data, research based focus, research based action is the crux of this aspect, right? Now, networking and advocacy. So, to make advocacy more effective and achieve the goal and objectives, the professional social workers have to work at various levels of network, be it at the individual level or group level or community or masses or public at large. They should have to have a network, and it would be worthwhile to introduce Woolcock's 2001 research, which distinguishes various types of networks. And this says it was discussed about this in three things: bonding network, bridging network, and linking network. So three types of networks has been discussed. Now, social work practitioners are expected to be involved in networking of individuals at the community or the local level. And it is done for what? Why it is done? Because this facilitates the development of strong bonds among the members of the network, which facilitate sharing of ideas, goals, and resources, which ultimately leads to strategizing the effective action as a group against forces of operation. So this is important. Now, if we see bonding, bonding is a social adhesive that promotes solidarity, trust, and confidence. Bonding. What is bonding? In network, in social work and advocacy. So bonding is a social adhesive. It is an important aspect or part or the process that promotes trust among the society members, among the individuals, and it builds trust and confidence among themselves. So the higher the bonding among the uh, individuals, the communities, the masses, the more they are powerful and they can raise their concern in front of the competent authorities, because advocacy is done to make our client feel more empowered. They should be aware of all this, their fundamental rights and their interest, right? Now, bridging creates social adhesive that promotes intergroup connectedness and expand the configuration of trust. This is again important. Now, bridging networks are essential in case of issues and problems that cut across communities and diverse social groups. So this line, please mark this. This is very important. And the target of intervention often are corrupt and malfunctioning state agencies or adversaries which are more stronger and distant. Right? So linking is a broader concept of relationship based on institutional arrangements that promote exchange of power, wealth, and status among different social groups. So advocacy work, while working with different form of network and various levels, involves informing the network members about their rights and entitlements, making members conscious about their strengths and weaknesses and adversaries. So, legal awareness, filing representations, developing strategies for their joint action that may range from organizing rallies, bandh or strikes, gherao, or sloganeering and picketing, etc., are the various kind of activities that are performed while we go for advocacy, right? Now, another classification indicates type of networks as a horizontal and vertical network. Now, what are horizontal network? And these comprises of individuals and groups at the local level who are living in contiguous area and in similar living conditions and situations. So, in social capital parlance, these form of networks are called bonding social capital, where they have a strong bond among the members. And to make advocacy more successful, development of a strong bond in people's network is very important. right? So this is the thing. Now, existence of a strong bond in network will help sustain advocacy work undertaken against common adversary who would always be looking for ways and means to break the unity among the group. This is again important. Now, such horizontal network and bonding social capital are essential to act as a pressure group at the local level. And it is done with an objective to avail adequate and quality services provisioned by the state, particularly in context of delivery of social and welfare services through various government programs. Right? So this is important. Now, the purpose is to utilize the strength embedded in larger number of people, creating a mass wage which in turn gives legitimacy to the movement. Linking social capital is more vertical, referring to vertical network that connects people like political resources, social activists, NGOs working in the field of advocacy, transnational organizations, etc. So there is a vertical arrangement of network where there are political resources, social activists, NGOs who work in international organization or transnational organizations, they do for advocacy. So having a network of all these so that we can influence the policy makers, the legislature, the bureaucracy, the government to work on behalf of the people who are oppressed, who are not getting their basic entitlements, right? So professional social workers, here this point is very important. Professional social workers' ability to use these modern communication tools like the internet, print and visual media, social media, and agenda setting, giving visibility to issues at larger scale are some of the important skills, some of the important abilities which are important for advocacy work. Right? Now, moving ahead with that of awareness campaigns and advocacy. If we look at this, awareness campaigns are often the first step to introduce the audience to new services, programs, facilities, or actions. And it is done in order to build familiarity to desired behavior. For example, promoting immunization or improving public health. For example, if you remember one open defecation, ODF, that was uh, having open defecation in villages areas. So change in the behavior, 100% immunization among the children. So these are some of the areas where awareness campaigns are required. And as a social worker, we need to have a complete understanding that how we will create awareness campaigns. A campaign, for example, is that of HIV treatment. Ki HIV do not spread because of touching somebody, because of hugging somebody, right? So creating awareness, for example, smoking, the ill effect of smoking and gutka, that is processed tobacco, chewing have affected policy change banning smoking in public areas. So the more people are aware of, the more is the impact on general mass, right? So all these are very, very important. Now, protection of women against domestic act in 2005. So media-oriented advocacy awareness campaign involves multiple areas of work and strategies, like example, preparing news, releases and placing stories, commissioning photographs or videos, designing posters and other campaign materials using emails, text message, web 2.0 technologies, etc., gathering data and feedback and all that and all that. So all these are basically to raise awareness among masses, and that's possible through advocacy, through lobbying, through communication, through IEC, right? And sometimes advocacy may be done at various levels, be it personal level, that is raising issues concerning to a daily life. For example, in your locality, there may be a problem of mosquitoes. There may be problems of irregular cleaning of drainage system or something like that. So the advocacy may be done at personal level, whereas it is sometimes done at family level. What, for example, gender discrimination, age-related issues, child abuse, elderly abuse, etc. And it may be also done through community level or any sections of community not getting their equitable share and discriminated on account of certain ethnicity or religion or caste or something like that. At the same time, the advocacy may be followed at the national level or international level, right? So I hope you got this idea. Now we will move ahead with public interest, PIL, and advocacy. Now, litigation is an important advocacy strategy available to advocates around the world. See, litigation is the litigation and legal advocacy may be used to clarify and fill the gaps in legislation, and that may be used to promote and protect the human rights of all in need, right? So when is used advocacy, PIL. So PIL is basically a major channel or method of providing help and direct justice to groups, communities, and societies as a whole facing economic exploitation. For example, laborers not being paid minimum wages, or torture or harassment of scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, and economically backward classes, atrocities on women and children. So these are some of the cases where PIL can be filed in the court, right? So it is often found that the vulnerable people or population have been the target of various forms of exploitation. Now, what is PIL? This is the PIL which has been mentioned here. So we need to understand this one. I'll not discuss much more because sometimes you feel that we are discussing too much, right? So let us go to this paragraph only. So PIL is a legal tool that can be used in various situations, and it is an ideal form of indirect social work practice, and that could provide justice to clients in large scale. Right? Please understand this. PIL, when filed in Honorable High Court or Supreme Court, it basically solves the problem of people at large. It is a method that advocates for seeking justice and providing relief to clients through the court. And though PIL does not involve much of direct social work practice, the professionals, however, has to meet and understand the conditions in which the oppressed people are, investigate the nature of their problem faced, and all that and all that. So PIL is a form of advocacy that helps the people at large, right? Now let us move to resource mobilization and advocacy. So resource mobilization refers to all activities involved in securing new and additional resources to any organization. It involves making better use of and maximizing its existing resources. Mobilizing uh, is an essential method in social work. It brings to the life a whole range of intervention initiatives and programs. Right? Social work profession often work in through agencies which design programs for intervention and change, keeping in view the needs and desires of clientele population served. And the clients may be an individual, maybe a families or groups or communities. So we require resources. And what kind of resources? Monetary resources, money, cash, technical assistance, cooperation, human resources, physical goods. All these are required for social welfare, right? So this is basically all about that. Now talking about Indian NGOs has been mobilizing government resources, how they are mobilizing government resources, getting finance from the government by making government issues and priorities their program. Please understand this thing that the NGOs, non-government organizations in India, they design, they draft their bylaws as per priorities of state or central government, and they show they work on these priority areas of the government, and the government gives, mobilizes, the NGOs gets grants, financing from the government for working on the lines of the union government of India or the state government of India. So this is all about that, right? Now, strength based practice and advocacy. Strength based practice is a collaborative process between persons supported by services and those supporting them, allowing them to work together to determine an outcome that draws on persons' strength and assets. So it allows one to see opportunities, hope, and solutions rather than just problems and hopelessness. So, a true strength based approach is one that governs the way we think about people and the way we go about our work on daily basis for all actions and transactions. How beautifully all these has been written, and that's why I'm reading this, right? So now let's move ahead. The strength based method of social work equips clients in countering common presumptions that clients who are faced with persistent challenge, multi-stressed, economically distressed, vulnerable, and risk, etc. So the strength-based methods affirms and builds on resources potential available at disposal of client, also in the environment to overcome the barriers and ad- adversities, multi-systemic failures, and all that. And this is done at three levels: micro, meso, and macro, which we have studied earlier in the first year of our MSW program, right? So this is all about that client advocacy, and social work advocacy is an exclusive and mutual representation of client or cause of forum attempting to systematically influence decision making in an unjust or unresponsive system. So if I go to overall summary of this thing, I will simply say advocacy is one of the important tools or techniques or methods or process of raising the voice to the poor, to the vulnerable sections, to the marginalized sections, to the oppressed sections of society who are not aware of their basic rights, interest, their entitlements, and all, right? So this is all about second unit, and in the third unit, in the next session, we will discuss about the networking as a method of social work. How networking is important, what are the various dimensions of the networking. So please stay tuned to us. Please share your feedback. Please share your comments, whatever you are feeling. It motivates us to work further on, to share our experiences and knowledge with you all. Till then, take care. Thank you very much. See you in the next session. Thank you.